A long time ago, there lived a boy named Rodney in a village. He was very happy with his family, but his happiness could not last for long. Rodney and his fellow villagers faced a severe drought. They desperately waited for rain, but with no luck. All the crops, land, and even trees dried up. The cattle started dying. As there was no rain, the stream was drying up slowly. One night, during a meeting with the villagers, Rodney said, "Friends, we all have heard tales from our grandparents about an underground river flowing through our village. Why don't we dig and see?" The villagers agreed and started digging. They dug for some days but gave up soon. However, Rodney kept on digging. When people told him to give up, he said, "God is helping and guiding my way." One day, when he had dug deep enough, Rodney saw water. His attitude of not giving up saved the whole village. Never give up so easily, Rodney advised all the villagers. Now they are never short of water, and whenever any problem arises, all the villagers come up together and find a solution. Sure. Here is a long continuation of the story, Don't Give Up, written in the same motivational and inspiring style. It expands the story for a longer reading or narration and keeps the tone consistent, clear, and suitable for learners or podcast listeners. Don't Give Up, extended story. Rodney stood there, staring at the water that began to fill the hole he had dug. His hands were bruised. His clothes were torn. His face was tired, but his eyes were full of hope. He dropped to his knees, cupped the water in his hands, and drank. Tears rolled down his face, not from pain, but from relief, from victory, and from deep gratitude. Word quickly spread through the village. People came running, shouting with joy. Children danced. Mothers cried. The elderly villagers blessed Rodney with folded hands and grateful hearts. That day, the village changed forever. But more importantly, Rodney changed forever. A new leader rises. From that day on, Rodney was no longer just a boy in the village. He was now a symbol of courage, of faith, and of determination. The villagers began to look up to him, not because he found water, but because he believed when no one else did. The village chief, an old and wise man, called a meeting and said, "Rodney has taught us something greater than any river could give. He has reminded us that we must not give up, even when things seem impossible." Rodney stood before everyone, shy but strong. "I'm not special," he said. "I was just tired of waiting for help. I believe the stories are. Elders told us, and I believed that God would guide us. When we stop trying, we stop living." The village begins to thrive. With water now flowing again, the villagers planted new crops. They built a proper well where Rodney had dug. They created irrigation channels and shared the water with nearby villages. The once dry land turned green again. Flowers bloomed. Trees stood tall. The cattle returned to health. Rodney helped build a school for the children. He taught them not just reading and writing, but also stories of bravery, patience, and persistence. He often said, "Your mind is your strongest tool. Use it with faith, and nothing can stop you." A new challenge. Years passed, and the village grew. People came from faraway places to see the miracle of the underground river. But one year, a great storm came. The riverbanks overflowed. Fields were flooded. The crops were destroyed again, But this time, not by drought, but by too much water. Panic returned. Fear grew. The villagers came to Rodney and said, "What do we do now? Everything is ruined again." Rodney looked out at the flooded land and took a deep breath. "My friends, this time the problem is different, but the answer is the same. We don't give up. We learn. We adapt. And we act together." He gathered the young men and women and began building barriers to control the water. Small dams, planted trees to absorb excess water, and built raised platforms for farming. It was hard work, but the village followed Rodney's lead. A legacy of hope. Over time, Rodney became known as the man who never gave up. Children from neighboring towns visited his village to learn about him. Songs were written. Books were shared. But Rodney never took credit. "I did not build this village alone," he always said. "We built it together, with faith, unity, and the will to keep going." One evening, an old man asked Rodney, "What is the most important thing you've learned in life?" Rodney smiled and replied, "The most important thing is to take one more step, even when you're tired, to try again, even after failure, and to believe, especially when no one else does." Final words. Even today, people from across the land remember Rodney's story. They teach it to their children. They remind each other of it when things go wrong, and every time someone feels like giving up, they think of a young boy who dug the earth with his hands, found water for his people, and built a future with hope. Because of Rodney, they remember. When you feel like giving up, that is the moment you must keep going. That is the moment when everything can change.